Look, I go away for a week and I'm already rusty. What up, viewers? What up? What up? Calc Soups here, and today is Friday, December 4th, and that means it's time for a quick recap of the week in video game news. Let's start off with happening earlier this week. For the first time in quite a long time, I'm going to talk about Fortnite. Yep. So Fortnite Season 4 launched. Fortnite Season 4 ended this week. The big Marvel cross cosmic event, every cross universe event has been happening all season in Fortnite. And that has come to a close this year with Galactus coming to destroy the planet. It was a pretty big deal. They built up the time for it. I think about half an hour before it ended, they kind of like stopped matches, and I sat here and kind of watched through most of it. And that's actually a big deal. A lot of people were watching the event, but after the event, Epic came out and said that this event has broken their concurrent record. I think every season for the past year or two has kind of like broken this concurrent record, or every event that has happened has broken this record. The last one that happened was the Travis Scott concert back in April, had 12.3 million concurrent users. The Marvel Galactus ending event had 15.3 million concurrent users, as well as they recalled a bunch of people who watched it concurrently on YouTube, and that's where I was watching it. But yeah, this kind of whole mashup with Marvel I think it's been really working for them. I think it's just a really good deal, kind of on both ends, bringing brand IPs into Fortnite, as well as Fortnite bringing awareness to some of these brand IPs. So not that Marvel needs any help, but I think it was really cool for that. And then speaking of, Season 5 came back up. So they went down for 9 hours to work on server maintenance. And then Season 5 was right back up again. And this one is going to be focused on hunters. And that came with a lot of really cool IP. They're already in bed with Disney with all the Marvel stuff. So they got to do Mandalorian, which is perfectly timed. So they have Mandalorian that you can play as, the Mandalorian Din Djarin from the show, that you can play as well as there's Baby Yoda in the Battle Pass. Kratos is also in there somewhere. I saw articles about that as well. And Kratos looked a little weird. It looked too stark. I don't know. I'm just kind of used to I'm really a fan of the 2018 God of War game. He really looks really dirty and grimy. But yeah, I think that his was just a little bit too stark. But he's there. Old man Kratos is there with his beard. So yeah, lots of cool things kind of coming to Fortnite. I don't typically talk about Fortnite, but each of those kind of season-ending events, they come with numbers about concurrent users and breaking records, and I like to talk about that stuff as well. Moving right along, talking about other video games that launched this week. Immortal Fenyx Rising, Ubisoft's take on, previously known as Gods and Monsters, Ubisoft's take on Breath of the Wild, has launched yesterday. It launched on a Thursday, which I thought was actually kind of weird. But the moment we saw it, I think everybody kind of said Breath of the Wild. I think in even one of the trailers, kind of the accolades trailer, it says Game Informer says Breath of the Wild, which is good, which is high praise. If the game is trying to be Breath of the Wild and ends up kind of falling short of Breath of the Wild, at least they aimed really high. Looked at the Metacritic for this. It's sitting at about an 83, which should be decent enough. Not the must play, drop everything kind of game that you're looking for. I haven't quite seen it on the Switch. I heard it's really stunning and beautiful on next gen consoles. But I think I would play this game more on the Switch if I were to pick it up. But I'm definitely looking at picking this up. But I've kind of heard hit or miss reviews from friends or from reading into some of those Metacritic articles a little bit deeper. The Greek mythology is kind of done really well, but it's done kind of tongue in cheek, and so some of that might be rubbing people the wrong way. I think I'm a huge fan of Greek mythology. I really like it. But I think it's starting to get a little bit overdone in current media and stuff like that. After playing Hades for 50 hours, like I feel like I've got a lot of Greek mythology, and so I might just wait for Immortal to kind of drop or something like, or drop in price, or just wait for me to kind of want to return back to that Greek mythology. But Greek mythology meets Breath of the Wild and running around with like a maybe an in-depth crafting system that I've heard about. That sounds pretty good too. So looking forward to seeing more about that, getting more reviews, seeing more gameplay. I might watch some Twitch streams eventually. So yeah, I think that this could be a game that I might really like. So looking forward to seeing more about that. Another game that had completely another game that had fallen off my radar was Empire of Sin. I think we heard about this, I think 2 E3s ago, I think in 2019. It was coming from Paradox. Paradox did Bioshock, I believe, or Bioshock Infinite. So I am a big fan of Paradox. But Paradox is the company behind this, as well as Romeo Industries. I was looking forward to this game, but I saw some of the reviews on it. For those of you who don't know, this game was supposed to be XCOM type game, but meets 1920s kind of gangsters, where you have the turn-based tactics and the cover shooting and all that kind of stuff. The top-down view. The game looked really interesting, but I saw the Metacritics for the game that launched on December 1st, and 65 Metacritic is actually really low. Metacritic, unless something's getting hard review bombed, which this isn't, it's just people are having really spotty reviews about it. A lot of glitches, a lot of bugs. Even the 1,500 Steam reviews are mixed on it, so it just seems like this game has a lot of good ideas and a lot of good concepts. The execution seemed to be flawed, so I'm still looking forward to the game. The game's only $40, so it's not a full $60 game. So if you're really enthused about it, I like games that don't break records or get a lot of high ratings. You watched me play through the 20 hours of load screen that is Wasteland 3, so I'll still play a game even if I really like it. I really like XCOM meets 1920s gangsters, but maybe I'll wait for the price to lower and maybe some of those glitches and bugs to be squashed. So looking forward to seeing more about this, but definitely not going to pick it up. Switching topics entirely, VR. The VR market I saw a kind of sales report this week about VR. There's numbers based from a company called Omdia, which I had never heard before. Not usually one of the things I look for gaming data. But there was a report put out, said that 6.4 million headsets had been sold this year for VR. I think most of that has been driven. I think the article even talks about how most of that has been driven by the success of Oculus Quest, which I think is still pretty hard to get at this time, especially at this time of year. But the kind of hybrid, untethered VR headset, I think, is becoming more prominent. The technology's there for people to kind of mass produce those for consumers at a reasonable price at $300 or $400. So VR is becoming more and more accessible, other than the kind of cardboard cell phone way of doing it. So this is becoming more accessible. You don't need a higher end PC to pull it off. That 6.4 million headsets equates to, I think, roughly, and again, this is based on their estimates, but I agree with the kind of back of napkin math here, roughly about $1 billion, including content and the rigs. So VR is $1 billion industry this year. I think is a pretty good sign. That's nowhere near the kind of hundreds of billions of dollars that the games industry is, but it's still $1 billion industry. So and the part that I do disagree with in the report, and I'll have a link down to the report in the description below, but kind of showed this like doubling, tripling, quadrupling over the next 5 years of the VR market. And I just don't see that. It shows like the last 5 years, the VR market's kind of been pretty flat, if not decaying. But based on like more hybrid headsets coming out, they kind of made the jump that it's gonna like double in the next 5 years. And I don't know that I see that yet, but we'll have to see with kind of the Oculus Quest and other manufacturers doing that as well. So I'm really excited for this. VR has kind of been the bastard child that I always check in on and make sure that it's okay. So it was kind of cool to see this article come across this week. Now to more actual, not actual gaming, but more gaming related stuff. Game Pass has added a new feature that allows you to preload games before they launch, which is really cool. Coming from a streaming service that is giving you, for a month, for a low monthly rate, allows you to play games day and date with launch. And the fact that you can preload them just like you could any other game that you purchase is really cool and really important to kind of. I think that one of the selling points of the Game Pass is the kind of day and date launch with other platforms and making it available via Game Pass, the subscription service. So adding a preloading feature is actually really cool, and I'm excited to see it. So I assume that every Halo, every copy of Halo Infinite will be downloaded, preloaded before the game launches, whenever it comes. Still estimating it probably June next year, probably sometime before June next year. So hopefully I'm not wrong. Moving right along, Amazon Luna. I think I've been seeing a couple of reviews popping up. I think more people got access to it. I've gotten access to it as well, and I'll have my kind of preview of thoughts after this. But saw an article from PC Gamer by Corbin Davenport. He had written kind of a few a pretty in depth review of it. He thought it was pretty good. The games, I think, across both Stadia and Luna leave much to be desired. There's a couple games on Luna that I did like. I played Tacoma last weekend with my free trial, and I thought everything worked fine. It was pretty fun. There was a couple technical glitches. I don't know if that was on the game's end or on the streaming services end. The review I read talked about kind of a desync, and I don't think I've experienced that. I did experience that on Stadia, but I haven't experienced that on Luna yet. And the biggest complaint that the report had was kind of a browser incompatibility. I used it on Chrome. I've been using it on my phone using Safari. Everything's kind of been working fine, but maybe if you're using Firefox or Internet Explorer, then it hasn't worked as well. I haven't had the experience, but I just use it on Chrome, so it seems to be working for me. And I'm mostly giving it a delightful kind of thumbs up because I think it's been pretty cool, and it's just kind of worked. I think that's been kind of my key takeaway from it is it just kind of works, as opposed to Stadia, which I felt like I had to do a lot of kind of jumping through hoops, and just giving me access to the content is good, as opposed to Stadia being a platform where I could buy games or play Destiny for free. So I've been kind of excited about Luna, and I think it's kind of cool that it works with the phone browser. I finally set that up this week, so I'm looking forward to seeing more coming to Luna. Amazon's probably going to pay for the exclusives that it needs to kind of drive the platform, but it could just be another thing that kind of sits there, just like any one of their other Amazon Prime offshoot things that they get, the subscription service that you can buy and forget about. So but I definitely see them, if not putting their own platform exclusives on there, at least buying some. So looking forward to seeing more of that coming out of Luna. Another psychology report came out this week. A couple weeks ago I talked about Oxford kind of finding that that gaming is good for mental health. This one came out. This one's more about like decision making. It comes from researchers who published a paper in the National Academy of the Sciences, and this one was about kind of decision making. And what they did was they tracked a person's decision when it comes to like risk adverse versus kind of like a more risk overt kind of decision making. So the idea was, if I read the paper right, the idea was that if you are risk adverse, that your mouse is going to initially move and hover over the risk adverse choice, and then even if sometime later you decide, even if you mull on it for a while and decide to go for the more risky decision, that the idea that you initially pull towards the risk one and vice versa, if you're more risky, you'll initially lean towards that, and then you might choose the safer decision. But the idea of where you pull your mouse kind of determines, maybe a little bit deeper of how risk averse you are and stuff like that. I thought it was a really cool idea that goes into like decision making and looking into this. I think in the biggest context was that it was in video games, but I thought it was really cool kind of study, and with my psychology background, I really dig some of these reports that kind of saw a pretty cool Pokeball this week. So there was $100 die-cast metal Pokeball that I'll have a link to down in the description below. And the idea is that it's a metal Pokeball. It's about the Pokeball size, so it fits in your hand, not small like the kind of Pokemon controller was that came with the accessory for, what was it, Pokemon Sword and Shield. I don't know if it was even exclusive to Pokemon Sword and Shield, but the Pokeball Switch accessory. This isn't this. This is a big kind of expected to be a collectible Pokeball that if as you approach it, it actually starts to illuminate the center of the Pokeball, and you can kind of control that and change kind of the sound you hear when you touch it. Also, the kind of the way it opens up in the box kind of like deploys it, kind of it lifts it up, and like it's kind of cool. But for $100, you can buy this metal Pokeball. And one of the biggest things about it is you're not supposed to throw it around. So $100 metal die-cast Pokeball, you're not supposed to throw it around. It's meant to be more handled gently and kind of as a showing off kind of collectible, as opposed to kind of a practical collectible of throwing it around. And I looked everywhere. I dove into the Amazon product page, and it weighs like over a pound. It weighs like 1.3 pounds. So you definitely don't want to be like throwing that at someone and be like, hey, Pokeball, because you like hit someone with a more than a pound, almost a pound and a half of metal. It's probably not going to feel good. So I thought that was really funny that they were like, don't throw it around. That was like number 3 on like their FAQ, was like, don't throw this Pokeball. You could hurt someone. You probably don't want to drop it on your foot either. So this kind of like heavy pound of Pokeball, you do not want rolling around. But for $100, I thought it was kind of cool. Could be a cool Christmas gift if someone's really into Pokemon in your family. Although I don't think it releases until February of next year. So pre-order. If you're one of those kind of people who gives like someone a sheet of paper with a pre-order on it and gives that to someone for Christmas, then this could be the perfect gift for you. But I don't think it launches until next year, so look forward to that. Doom Fall Guy, or Fall Doom Guy, I don't know how you kind of say it, but the Doom Slayer is coming to Fall Guys, which is amazing, and I love that Guys is in the name just so I can make that kind of Doom Guy pun. But yeah, I think this is awesome. I'll have to actually log into Fall Guys. I don't even know if I have enough crowns in order to get this, but I really want to run around in Fall Guys as the Doom Slayer. I think it is really cool. I like that Fall Guys has kind of been expanding the characters in its that it's willing to work with for its IP with Sonic and Untitled Goose Game. So looking to get Doom into Fall Guys, which means that I think, well, no, this is still Bethesda's decision because the kind of deal hasn't closed. The Microsoft deal hasn't closed yet. But so this is still a Bethesda decision, even though this is kind of in a kind of somewhere around the same time as kind of the Microsoft Bethesda buyout. So I don't think that this won't have not been under the purview of Microsoft. So I think that's a cool angle as well. And last but certainly not least, inclusion has been, if you hear softly fainting, softly in the distance, a bell ringing, that is, a game becoming slightly more inclusive. So last article for the week is wheelchairs have now been added to Fallout 76, and is craftable in your, kind of in your camp station. So that, just to be a little bit more inclusive, this is kind of started by a disabled gamer who said that they wanted to have a wheelchair to kind of represent them in the game, and that kind of request became a reality, and I think that's really cool. So I just like when games become more and more inclusive, include more and more diverse characters, or the ability to kind of represent yourself in all the different ways. I remember when the Xbox Avatar started to be able to, have kind of disabled people as a kind of a way to represent themselves in their Xbox avatars. So I think that's really cool, and I just like when games add this kind of extra layer of inclusivity. So I really like that. So hope you do too. I'll have a link down below in the description to talk about it. thanks for watching. That was a lot. I've been gone for a week, so I was a little rusty, but thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this content. If you do, follow, like, and subscribe to me on YouTube and Twitch so you can see more great content like this. Links down below in the description. Thanks again. I hope you have a super day. I hope you have a super weekend. And I hope you have a super day. Bye!